Well, we've been reading through the Jesus Storybook Bible, and that Bible tells us all the stories in the Bible and relates them back to Jesus and how Jesus is related in each one. Today we're going to learn about a forgiving prince. A forgiving prince, and his name is Joseph, and it comes from the book of Genesis. Jacob had 12 sons, but of his sons, Joseph was his favorite. One day, Jacob gave Joseph a splendid new robe. It was beautiful and rich with all the colors of the rainbow. But it made Joseph's brothers very jealous. They wanted rich rainbow robes too. Then, to make matters worse, Joseph kept having these special dreams. Joseph said to his brothers, "I dreamt that I was the greatest. I was the king, and you all bowed down to me." Now, I'm sure you know, even if Joseph didn't, that telling your brothers things like that isn't a very good idea. Joseph's brothers hated him even more than before. And they wanted to kill Joseph and his dreams. And one day, that's exactly what they tried to do. They tore Joseph's rainbow robe right off him and sold him to slave traders for 20 pieces of silver. The traders took Joseph to Egypt and made him into a slave. The brothers went home and lied to their father, telling him that Joseph was dead. That's the end of that dreamer, they thought. But they were wrong. God had a magnificent dream for Joseph's life. And even when it looked like everything had gone wrong, God would use it all to help make the dream come true. God would use everything that was happening to Joseph to do something very good. Meanwhile, though, things were not looking good for Joseph in Egypt. He was far from home and from his family and from his dad. Then he got blamed for something he didn't do. And even though he did nothing wrong, he was punished and thrown into jail. But God had not left Joseph. One night, Pharaoh, that's the king of Egypt, had a scary dream about some thin cows gobbling up some fat cows. What on earth did it mean? He didn't know. But Joseph was a dream expert. So Pharaoh sent for him. "It means a famine is coming," Joseph explained. "There won't be enough food." Pharaoh was so pleased by Joseph's skill that he immediately took Joseph out of jail and made him a prince. Now, back at home, Joseph's brothers had run out of food and everyone was hungry. God's special family was in danger. If they didn't get food soon, they would all starve to death. So Joseph's brothers traveled to Egypt to buy food. They came and they knelt down before the new prince. His brothers didn't know that that prince was Joseph, their brother. But Joseph knew who they were. Joseph's dream, the one about his brothers bowing down to him, was coming true. "It's me," he cried. When they saw it was Joseph, his brothers were afraid. They had wronged Joseph. They had sinned and they knew it. Now Joseph would certainly punish them. And maybe you or I might do that. I might. I don't know about you. You would? You would punish your sister? I understand. And most of us would. But Joseph looked at his brothers and his eyes filled with tears. Even though his brothers had hurt him and hated him and wanted him dead, in spite of everything, being sold into slavery, sent to a foreign land, accused and thrown in prison because of his brothers, he couldn't stop loving them. His heart, which they had broken, filled up with love, and Joseph forgave them. Joseph threw his arms around them. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Behind what you were doing, underneath everything that was happening, God was doing something good. God was making everything right again, and Joseph didn't punish his brothers. Instead, he rescued them. He brought God's special family to live safely with him in Egypt. One day, God would send another prince, a young prince whose heart would break like Joseph. He would leave his home and his father. His brothers would hate him and want him dead. He would be sold for pieces of silver. He would be punished even though he hadn't done anything wrong. But God would use everything that happened to this young prince, even the bad things, to do something good, to forgive the sins of the whole world. And you know who that prince is? I think that prince might be. That's right. Jesus is the prince who left his father, left his home, and came to earth, was hated by his brothers, rejected, and punished, even though he did nothing wrong, because he loved us so much, and he wants us to go and be safe with him in heaven. That's an amazing thing that he did for us, isn't it? Should we pray and thank him for it? I think that'd be good. Let's pray. Dear Jesus, thank you for coming and leaving your Father and loving us so much. Thank you for preparing a way for us to come in safety to live with you forever. In Jesus' name, amen.